Awesome. Okay. I am super excited to be facilitating this. We were just talking about how it is a such a whirlwind of a semester, and to be talking about summatives right now is like crazy work.
Recording in progress.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hold on. I think I had to change that up. So. Is there an echo? Do you hear it?
No, not anymore.
Okay, awesome. Good deal. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had access to look at the chat too, because I don't have my two screens. So here we go. Um, but Claudia, I'm probably going to exit out of that because that is going to be distracting, but would you let me know if there's any questions in the chat? I'll pause after
Of course.
just a couple of those. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for being here. Just you being on tonight shows that you are adamant about your professional development and making sure that you have all of the tools that you need in order to be prepared for your summative. And since April starts next week, we definitely need to talk about those summatives, and we need to talk about how to bring all of this stuff together and get to where we need to be when it comes to T-TESS. So, again, thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Jamie, for the opportunity. I do want to tell you a little bit about myself. So, I am Rachel Chandler, used to be Broussard, still Broussard on my T-TESS certificate. But I did get married in October, so I'm still a newlywed, enjoying all of that. But just so you know a little bit about me, this is year 21 for me in education, and it is definitely a great um, profession to be in. I've been a history teacher. Uh-oh, I think we got some things happening on the screen, but it's okay. Um, so just so you know, I am a former teacher, spent a lot of time in the classroom teaching history and English. I also taught I was also an athletic coach. I was a campus instructional specialist, curriculum coordinator, you named it, I probably did it in education. I did spend some time on the dark side as a campus administrator, so I can tell you a lot about what we are going to talk about today because it is something that I had to do on the administrator side, but now it's my passion to help educators to understand from a former administrator so that you can get all that you need in order to be prepared when you have your conferences with your administrators and when you are preparing for your artifacts. So I'm excited about what we're going to get to talk about today. All right, so these are our table of contents. These are the things that we're going to discuss this evening. So we definitely have to talk about the domains. We're going to primarily focus on domain 4 because that is the evaluation component. Um, I'm going to give me 1 second. Do you mind pausing the recording? Because I think I want to take the lines that are on here off. I'm not sure how we. Oh. There we go. All right. So here we go. We are going to talk about the domains and we're going to focus on domain 4 because your summative, of course, is domain 4, but it also is a culmination of all of the other domains as well. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about T-Test and TIA because if your district has gone to the links in order to apply for the TIA application, and you can become a TIA designated teacher. That's more money in your pocket for the great work that you're doing in your classroom. However, it is attached to your evaluation. So, in order for you to get to that point, you have to get out of that first gate of T-test. So, we'll talk about that a little bit. And then we'll talk about how you advocate for yourself, how you document everything that you're doing so that when you go into your meetings with the administrators, you have the artifacts and the evidence to show that you should be above proficient. And we're going to talk about how everybody's probably heard it. Proficient is rock solid teaching, right? But the truth of the matter is that yes, it is rock solid teaching. However, it's not going to get you to that above and beyond that you want to be, especially if your district ascribes to TIA. And then we'll talk about strategies for success, some of the awesome things that you can utilize in order to get you to that distinguished level. Okay. All right. So, first up, we're going to talk about these domains. And like I told you, we're going to focus on domain four. But before we get to that, the focus of T-TESS is always, hey, what are you doing in the classroom? What are you doing to plan for your classroom success? How is your classroom structured? And then what do you do professionally to enhance the academic and educational environment? And that includes the entire school. So when we talk about domain four tonight, we're going to talk about how that is the totality of your professional growth and your professional contributions. So, again, make sure you understand that by this time, and I hope and pray that by this time, everybody has had a pre-conference and an observation. If you have not had an observation, a 45-minute observation, which is required, then you should be emailing your administrator tonight or tomorrow morning to say, hey, can we have a meeting so I can discuss why we have not gotten to the observation stage? But you should definitely have gone through your pre-conference and your observation. You should have had small um, evaluations in between where your administrator may have come to your planning sessions. They may have come into your classroom just for a small bit. But your full observation, which a lot of you, you'll hear administrators call it your 45, because it has to be at least 45 minutes for the administrator to go in and actually observe your instruction and your connection and interaction with students. And then you should have had a post conference. You should have been able to talk to your administrator about what they evaluated and what they saw while they were in the classroom so that you all can talk about what your next steps are, so that you can give them your artifacts. If you didn't go through that cycle, okay, that is unfortunate because everybody is allowed that entire cycle. A lot of times, some people will choose to waive their pre-conference. Some people will choose to waive their post-conference. I'm telling you that the you should never do that in C-test. Whenever you are evaluated, you want to make sure that you have a pre-conference and a post-conference. That is where you get to give your administrator all of the things that you are doing in your classroom that they may not see in that 15-minute or 45-minute span. So you want to be able to talk to them about your goals that you set at the beginning of the year, how you've made progress towards those goals, the evidence that shows their progress, whether you are bringing them the data from your progress monitoring or your district assessments, your classroom formative assessments, all of those different things. You want to have all of that together. You want to show any project-based learning that you've done, any type of great activities that students are engaged in and leading that charge in the classroom. Because what we're going to talk about when it comes to the domains and the descriptors is that in order for you to get to that accomplished and distinguished level, you will see that it's always on the accomplished and the distinguished side, it says student centered or student driven. Okay. One of my mentors, when I was still in the classroom, used to tell me, if you're going home tired, that means you did too much of the work in your classroom that day. And don't get me wrong, we are hard workers. We do everything we need to in order to get our students to where they need so that they can have that academic success. But many of us have heard the terms like productive struggle and wait time and allowing students to engage and lead the instructional grouping and all of those different things. Those things are what get us from proficient to accomplished and from accomplished to distinguished. And the students are engaged in the work and leading the charge because we've given them the foundation that they need in order to show that they're going to be successful in the work. So, when we talk about all of the different things, and back last semester when I did the first part of this training, we talked about how we had to make sure that our students were leading some of these things, and I'll talk to you more about that from the Domain 4 perspective. Okay, so any questions so far? And remember, you can unmute if you want to ask any questions, or you could put it in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer any of those. Okay, I see Sherry has her hand raised. Go ahead.
Yes, I had my 45-minute observation on Friday, January 9th, but I never got my post-conference and I did not waive it.
Okay. That is a great thing to observe. If you did not get a post conference and there was nothing that was given to you, like via email or anything else that said, "Hey, do you waive this post conference or anything else?" You still have the right to have that post conference. So you can email your administrator and let them know that they need to, well, you could, of course, say, "Hey, we had the meeting back, well, excuse me, you came and observed me for our 45-minute meeting, and I never got an opportunity to go over that information with you." So you do have the opportunity to get a post conference. And if you didn't get that opportunity, you can email your administrator and let them know that you still want that opportunity. Because again, that's where you are able to advocate for yourself. That is where you're able to show the artifacts of student progress through data, how you're meeting that student growth measure. You're able to go through all of those different things in the post conference, and that post conference is also where your administrator gives you feedback on the goals that you set at the beginning of the year and how you're making progress towards it based on that evaluation.
Okay,
So if you
thank
didn't
you.
get that, you still have the opportunity to have that. You just have to, of course, put that in writing, let your administrator know that you would still like to have that post conference.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I see Miss Judy Williams has her hand up. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes. My question is, I had a 45-minute observation. I guess it was in maybe March the 11th. I don't know if it was March or seemed like it was March or end of February. But
Mhm.
that was the only contact that I had with the administrator. I had no other informal just walkthroughs and or anything like that. So my question was to her was how do I get another evaluation, because I did not, when she went through everything, she ran through everything, and I did not agree with some of those domains, and I requested another observation from the head administrator.
So you are allowed to request another evaluator and another evaluation. It I don't know how many administrators you have on campus. It may not be from your principal or the leader of the school. It could be from another assistant principal or associate, but you are allowed to request another evaluation from a different observer. So, can you tell me when you asked, did you receive any feedback from your administrator that you requested that from?
I did not. She told me, I told her that I wanted to request another evaluation, and she said, well, it's still going to be, you're going to be on a growth plan. And that's what she communicated to me and did not give me the option of that. And that's when I emailed the head principal to request another evaluation because I did not, respectfully, I did not agree with the evaluation that I received.
Okay, and that again, I want you to know that you are within your rights to request another evaluation. If that first evaluation did result in a growth plan, I would still say, I would still recommend that you meet the criteria of whatever is in that growth plan just to ensure that you are following what even if you didn't agree with what the administrator put in that information, I would still, of course, recommend that you follow whatever is on there, right? I would recommend that you, if it has you meet with someone or uh,
It was
complete
nothing
up.
like that, Miss Chandler. There's nothing.
Okay.
I have a copy of it, and there's
Mhm.
nothing on there giving a chance to even make corrections, or address whatever she did not see, for me to even offer artifacts or anything that I have proof of things that, I do, and I know that the snapshot is just that 45-minute window.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am. So I would definitely, so another thing, did you get a response from the principal of the school when you requested another observation?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I would follow up, of course, like you said, respectfully, follow up and just say, I'm hoping to get a response about my request for another evaluation from a different evaluator and I would also like the opportunity to present my artifacts. And so let me also say this. You said you hadn't had a meeting prior to this 45, like you didn't do
No,
your,
this is 2026,
okay,
45 minutes. Nothing in 2025.
not even your goal setting.
The goal setting, I set that with the principal. Now, the
Okay.
principal has made some walkthroughs, and I viewed, what she has placed, in for me to make corrections or whatever. But
Hmm.
that's it.
So
But it was
it sounds
nothing
like,
matching. It was nothing matching. Has nothing to even do with my goal.
got
I
you.
mean, the 45-minute one has nothing to even do with the goal.
Indeed. So I would definitely put that in writing as well, because it sounds like the goal setting was with one administrator. And were you able to do a pre-conference with the administrator that did your 45?
I did a pre-conference with the one who did the 45 minutes. Yes, I did.
Okay. And so I would definitely say that because your administrator, your head principal did your goal setting and you did your pre-conference observation and post-conference with a different administrator, you would definitely want both of them to calibrate in order to ensure that
Okay.
those things from your goal setting matches the things that, of course, were being looked at. But they're also, again, your goal setting, of course, they give you feedback based on your goals, right? But your
Right.
observation is just based on what they saw that 45 minutes. So
Right.
that's why that artifact, being able to produce the artifacts and showing what you did in order to plan for it. Because again, remember, T-test is multifaceted, right? It has multiple domains so you have the planning um, classroom environments, and
Yeah.
then, of course, what we're going to talk about tonight, which is domain 4, which is professional responsibilities. So, there are multiple things that you can provide artifacts for that should be included, not just in that 45 to um, shift that 45-minute observation, but also for your summative as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So I know that Miss Dr. Claudia is going to she'll provide my information. I'll also put it in the chat, my email if you like me to assist you any further.
I will help like that.
Okay, yes, ma'am. All right. Well, we're going to keep on trucking through this. So again, we just talked about that actually with the awesome questions that and responses that we just had, but we have to talk about the domain and the dimension. A lot of people I've seen it as an administrator. I've also been in that seat as a classroom teacher. When you go through your evaluation training, everybody's just like, "Oh, here this again. Oh, we've been through this, da 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 da." But when we talk about how we're evaluated, this is one of the biggest things that we really do need to pay attention to because remember, the domain is the what? What is your administrator coming to look at? So that domain is instruction, right? So if I'm coming to look at instruction, then I need to, this is the what that I'm looking for, okay? But the dimension is how you're doing it. So when we think about those things, we have to say, hey, okay, I know they're coming in to look at instruction. Or if I had a 15-minute evaluation as a former administrator, I would go into PLCs to look at the planning component, right? Because if I went to your professional learning community, you're in there with your group of people or with another group of individuals in order to plan out how you're going to deliver this instruction. So that's where I could get information in order to do a full evaluation when it comes to summative time for that particular teacher because I needed to see what the planning component looked like and then what instruction looked like. Of course, anytime you go into a classroom, you're able to see the classroom environment and classroom and how people manage behavior, all of those different things. So that's a domain three, but when you touch it's domain two. But uh-oh, think we have a is everybody still able to hear me? I just saw something that said internet unstable.
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Great job. So what we're
There are a
talking
couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, okay. Would you read those to me before I go to the next slide?
Of course. So what would a goal setting meeting entail?
So your goal setting meeting should have happened at the beginning of the year. Okay. Your goal setting meeting is based on what you plan to accomplish for the school year. Like, what is you should have had a goal. Um, and every district is different, every campus is different. But when I was in the administrator role, we always required individuals to have a goal, a personal goal, and a student-centered goal. So, of course, you can go above that and have multiple goals, but you should have a personal goal for what a personal goal, personal professional goal, should I say. So it can't be, oh, my goal is just to keep my sanity for the rest of the year. Like, yeah, that can't be it, right? Even though we want you to do that. But your personal professional goal has to be associated with what you're going to do to better your craft, right? And then your student-centered goal, of course, is hey, this is what I know the goal is for the campus as far as how we're going to get to our accountability component, how we're going to get to our goals as a campus when it comes to my particular subject area, how I connect with other subject areas. So, and how I make my students successful in that. So that would be your student-centered goal. But that again, that meeting should have happened where your administrator should have gone over that with you back at the beginning of the year. And all of the meetings subsequently after that, when we talk about like your pre-conference and your post-conference and all of the other things that are, and even talking about your evaluations, we should always go back to your goals. So how are you meeting your goals? How are you getting to that point to where at the end of the year you could say, I met 90% of this, or you put some sort of numeric value behind it, or even, some sort of qualitative value behind it as well. So it looks like when we say what it looks like, when you say what that goal setting meeting looks like, it's also, but I'm sorry. Okay. So it's your administrator asking you questions and your administrator. I'm sorry.
It sounds like we need to mute some people.
Yeah, I think we might need to mute all.
I have muted some people, but for some reason, some people keep on muting. If you are not speaking or if you don't have a question, can you please mute yourself? And if you have a question, please let us know, and that's totally okay. Thank you.
All right, awesome. But so as far as what it actually looks like, it is your administrator asking you questions, also giving you information, whether they already gave that information at the beginning of the year when they talked about like accountability scores, what we rated as a district, what we rated as a campus, and what our goal is moving forward, how many percentage points are we trying to move up when it comes to our accountability score. All of those things would have to tie into your goals. So your principal or your administrator is taking the goals of the district and basically helping you to develop your goals based on what the campus is trying to accomplish. So they should be helping you to flesh that out during your goal setting meeting. All right. I hope that answers your question. Were there any other questions, Claudia?
Yeah, there was another one. Teresa asked, are we going to cover EOY? So I said domain 4 is the EOY focus, but you may want to, clarify.
Okay, yes. So end of year is so I'll start. Go ahead. I'm sorry. So end of year is when we talk about end of year, we're talking about your summative. And your summative is focused on all of the evaluations that you had throughout the year. So that includes your short evaluations, which generally are about 15 minutes, to your main evaluation, which is 45 minutes. Information that you may have gathered throughout the year when it comes to your artifacts, and then domain 4. Domain 4 is the culminating domain when it comes to your summative and end of year today. So I'm going to get to it, I promise. All right. So, again, these are just your domains and dimensions. I'm not going to spend too much time on this right here. But I will tell you that what we're going to talk about today, when we talk about domain 4, is professional demeanor and ethics, goal setting, professional development, and school community and involvement. Now, this is where I usually tell all of my teachers when I was an administrator on campus, this is where, yes, we evaluate some of those things when it comes to some of the dimensions that are on here, but this is where your artifacts really come in. Because when we talk about professional development, like right now, you are sitting in a professional development. AFT is going to give you a certificate, and you're going to be able to say, hey, in my own personal time, I spent from this time to this time, and I got these, credits in order to understand more about the T-TESS process. That should go under your PD profile. Those are things that you would provide to your administrator to show that, hey, I really am trying to meet the goals that I set for myself. So all of these things we're going to talk about tonight when we talk about your end of year. One thing I will tell you, and this is super important for you to know, your end of year T-test evaluation should not look identical to your 45. I'm going to say that one more time. Your T-test end of year evaluation should not look identical to your 45. Your summative, when we talk about our summative, we're talking about a summary of the entire year. So we're talking about a summary of all of your, how did you meet your goals from your goal setting meeting at the beginning of the year? We're talking about all of your short evaluations, whether your administrator came to your planning periods, your professional learning communities, if you have district meetings that you were helping to lead or helping to other individuals and teachers. And then, of course, it includes domain 4, which you would provide artifacts for all of these domains, but definitely for domain 4 when you sit down for your summative evaluation. So, all of those things have to be taken into consideration when we look at the totality of your evaluation. Okay? Any
There
questions so
are
far?
two more
Yes, go
questions.
ahead. Mhm.
Which one is the one that counts the most? Summative, announced, or unannounced?
So just remember that they're not separate, okay? Your summative is a culmination of all of those things. So it is not that one weighs, I shouldn't say that. So your 45 is definitely one of the bigger ones, right? Because they're sitting in your room watching you for an entire lesson or part of your lesson if you have block and all of those different things. So you have to understand that um, all of these things come together to create your summative at your end of year. So when we're talking about end of year meetings, end of year summatives, it has to include everything that you receive throughout the year. Okay. All right. Any the other questions?
Yes, the next one is I have had high mobility this year due to parents' deportations, etc. I started with 14 students at the beginning of the year and now have 20. I have maintained 12 of those students remain with me. Is there a number of students required for TIA? Is there a cutoff date for those latecomers? I keep getting new students due to mobility.
So that's a great question. And because my current role as the leader of the PEMS department, um, I can tell you with absolute certainty that the individuals that are going to um, be the students that count towards accountability for your campus and for your school are the individuals who are with you at the snapshot date. And that snapshot date is the last Friday in October. So all other students, like if you had, and I understand the high mobility and everything else, the crazy thing about the way that is structured is that let's say you received a student, you still are required locally, like with your progress monitoring and everything else. But when it comes to STAR, when it comes to um, those things that if you are a STAR tested, I should say, if you are a STAR tested subject area. Now, if you are anything else like CTE or PE or anything else, and you use a different type of evaluation system. So like a different type of testing. Uh, I know with PE, some of them use the fitness gram test, all of those different things. With CTE, there are several industry-based certifications that they may use for that, along with other different tests. It's just a lot of different things that could possibly go towards your qualification for a teacher incentive allotment. So, but that also is outlined explicitly in the application that your district has submitted to the Texas Education Agency. So if you don't know, and I can't give you that information directly because I don't know what's in your particular district's application, but that application is public knowledge and it should be available to all individuals who are seeking to qualify for the teacher incentive allotment. So if you are a primary subject area, though, all of the subject areas that are governed by the STAR exam, then the STAR test will be your culminating event. And that will be the students who, again, I know you talked about high mobility, but those will be the students that were with you as of the snapshot date, which is the last Friday in October. Any other questions or follow-up?
Yes,
Okay.
there are more. I had a horrible announced observation and I felt it was targeted by the admin since she changed my schedule 4 times in one semester. I signed just because I have been a master teacher for 4 years, but I am not satisfied with it. It's still bothering me. Can I still do something about it?
So you can always put your feedback in writing, just to let them know, this is, you signed for acknowledgement, for, of course, your T-TESS purposes. However, you definitely want to make sure that you have the artifacts and everything that shows like your progress monitoring, data that shows increase in district assessments, all of those different things are artifacts that are admissible with your summative evaluation. So you definitely don't be faint of heart when it comes to the 45 because again, they're also looking at your data. They should be looking at your data that shows that your students are making progress. Of course, the STAR exam, you won't have that as something for your artifacts by the time you do your summative because of course STAR is in April. We won't get those results back until end of May, beginning of June. So but it does equate to whether you become a designated teacher for the teacher incentive allotment. So you definitely want to make sure that you're using those artifacts. And I will say this, and this is just the administrator that I was. Of course, I wanted to make sure that I calibrated and I wasn't you know, the administrator that just gave out all these great T-test scores, right? We have to calibrate. And I never forget I had an administrator that told me, it's facts over feelings. It's what do we see when we came into the room that day. That does not mean that it is the totality of who you are as an educator, but it is what we saw that day, right? So that's why artifacts are important. That's why having those pre and post conferences to talk about, hey, you came in at the introductory phase of this lesson that we were going over, but as we progress through that lesson, these are the things that the kids were able to produce. So that's why having those artifacts are important. And always going to your meetings that you are, of course, uh, allowed to have those pre and post conferences because it is important for you to be able to show those artifacts that I can't tell you how many times I would go into a classroom and I was watching the teacher start this lesson in a new unit and it was like, okay, this teacher has to set the foundation, so I'm not going to see of course, I saw student interaction and everything else, but she was, giving kids time for productive struggle. She was answering any introductory questions. It was just a lot of different things that, this particular teacher had to do to set the stage for that unit. So it might have just been proficient all the way down. And the teacher would, of course, come to their post conference and we would talk about, okay, so where is this lesson going? What are we hoping to see from students. What products are they going to give to you that shows their mastery and those type of things? And if they were able to come back and show those things and show how those students made progress within their district assessments, formative assessments that are in class, then that shows that that teacher went through that lesson cycle with success from the students. So, as far as teacher incentive allotment, though, the reason why I brought all it up is that um, no administrator worth their soul, okay, is should be trying to hinder any teacher from getting to that teacher incentive allotment point. Remember, there are two, and I have this in the presentation later, but there are two gates that you have to get through. You have to get through gate one, which is the T-test component. You have to make a certain score in order to get out of gate one. And then you have to, of course, have that student progress that shows from one assessment to the next that they've made the progress that of course, the state wants to see when it comes to those percentage numbers and equations. So, again, not only does the teacher receive money for the great work that they're doing and get those designations based on what they have, the district also benefits. So that means that the district gets money to be able to continue to pour into the instruction that our students need in order to be successful. So again, no administrator, I say that as a former administrator, I'm talking about myself. I know that some of you may have had some interesting administrators that may not have some of the same theories on that work, but I will say that the whole goal is to see everybody win.
Rachel has her hand up.
Okay, yes. Is it Rachel
No,
or
I'm sorry,
Rachel?
Rachel, yes.
I only
Yes,
ask because we might have the same
yes,
name. That's why I'm asking.
yeah, we have, yeah, Rachel Gibbs.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. So I know your sentiment on no administrators want to see teachers not get it, and I heard the person earlier. I've been teaching for over 21 years, and I've been through all of it, and generally the teachers that have good T-TESS scores and mentor teachers and all that. But for some reason, last year I took some FMLA, and I've been suffering through it the whole entire year with in terms of T-TESS. I'm in the process of a second appraisal, which I've never had to do before, and I'm sort of confused as to the role of the second appraiser in T-TESS. Do you have the knowledge to kind of help me as to what the expectation should be?
So your administrator should, again, that's why I say the pre-conference is super important, right? Even if you have even if you're requesting a second administrator, you're still, allowed to have that pre-conference with that administrator because this is going to be somebody new that you haven't worked with prior or doesn't
Right.
know. So in that pre-conference, that is when you, of course, ask those questions of the administrator. Like when you come in, what are you expecting to see? You ask those. And the reason why I say that is because every district, depending on what has been approved by by your school board, when it comes to teacher evaluations, has a certain requirement. So I can't give you specifics, but I can tell you that when you ask that question to your administrator, they are supposed to give you the answer to what that looks like moving forward. Are they going to average out those scores? Are they going to, it's all has to be told to you in that pre-conference.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
No problem. I see Miss Gonzalez, Elena.
Elena, yes,
Mhm.
Elena has her hand
I
up.
I have a question.
Uh,
I'm CTE, and I just
awesome.
feel that they don't, or I'm sure they do, hold us to the same standards, but I don't know that the T-test really makes a difference for us because we don't qualify for TIA because we do semester classes. We don't do the whole year. And then I think what makes it difficult, I don't have one topic. For example, I teach college and career. So I start with career clusters, then I go into job search, then I go into resumes and cover letters and all that. So right now we're doing camps with social studies. So by the time my T-test comes around, I'm going to have to start something new. I don't know that it's really going to affect me or does it really make a difference? I feel like they treat us like we're the redheaded stepchildren because we're just out there. We're CTE. I just don't think that we
I
count.
totally, I totally get it. So one of my jobs prior to becoming director of research assessment and data was the coordinator. I was the CTE data coordinator, and it is, I love CTE. I love CTE teachers. You all are amazing. All teachers are amazing, but I definitely have a special place in my heart for CTE teachers. The great thing about the district that I am currently in is that our application for the teacher incentive allotment includes our CTE teachers. And there are several different tests, not just the industry based certifications. So there are tests within um, different programs that we have subscribed to as a district for every teacher to have some sort of assessment, pre and post test that shows student growth, and it doesn't matter what course it is. So to you, I would suggest that you talk to your CTE director, your administrators, and ask them like, are we included in the teacher incentive allotment application to receive those designations?
Oh,
Because
we're not.
and so, and if you're not, then that the next question should be, can I get information from other districts so that we can get in that allotment? Because it takes for you to become eligible, it takes like it's like a 2 or 3 year process before, because you have the discovery year, the first year of collecting data, and then the year that you would actually become eligible. So they definitely want to get on that. They want to get on that this year. So uh
But since I know that I'm not really trying for that right now,
mhm,
I'm not saying that I'm not going to try to do a good job when they come in to observe
mhm,
me, but if I only get proficient,
mhm.
it's not going to get me a raise. If I get less, it's not going to get me a raise. I'll probably still have my job, but um,
Absolutely you
does
will.
it really? I'm at the point where does it really make a difference for us for CTE? You know what I mean? I guess that's
It
what I'm trying
definitely
to say.
does. It definitely does, because you want to be able to, when we talk about those artifacts, right?
Hmm.
One of the artifacts can be when you finally get to that point where, whether it be you're a part of the TIA application or not, you always with T-TESS want to be able to show the progression of your T-TESS summatives. So you want to be able to say at the end of each year, I was always at XYZ level. Um, so it shows your consistency, it shows your attention to detail, it shows your commitment to students. I mean, if you have all of those things and you keep those as documentation to show your progression throughout the years, then it shows that you are indeed that teacher that provides success for students, and you assist your colleagues and all of those different things. You want to be able to keep positive those positive evaluations, because again, that serves as your artifacts moving forward.
Yes, but I don't have like a pre-test that I give them or a post-test. I don't normally do that for
It's
my
it's
course.
okay. But it's your evaluation, the totality of your evaluation still serves as an artifact.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
So just make sure I have the last, I guess, evaluation or something like that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Next question.
Yes, ma'am.
I received notice from HR about a possible TIA designation. When will it be determined and awarded? Is it April?
So awesome job. Congratulations. I again, my department is responsible. I'm usually the one that has to keep the vault closed until we can tell everybody, right? So if your HR came through and told you that you are a designated teacher, then that means that you at the culmination of this year, so your PEMS department right now should be doing their actually tomorrow is the deadline for winter class roster, and that is all of the teachers who have met the requirements in order to become a designated teacher. So once that goes through the state by the end of this year, they will have all of your designations that are added to your SBEC certification, and your district will have to give you, so you'll get another email from your HR department or whatever department is over those designations to tell you when those monies will be distributed. Okay.
Okay, next one. Not a tested subject or grade level, so then it goes to our SLOs, correct?
So, okay. So
I'm
you
assuming
say
that it's related to TIA.
yes. So that's what I guess that's what I wanted some clarity on. So you say you're not a tested subject or grade level. So you said you're assuming that you're going through your student learning objectives or your
That's all it says in the
okay.
question.
So again, that depends on the application from your district. And like I said before, those things are public knowledge. You should be able to obtain that information to know who qualifies under your district's application. So you definitely want to reach out to whoever's over your teacher incentive allotment and your T-test information within the district. I would start with your campus administrators because, of course, they know what all of those things because they've been trained in it. So I would start with your campus administrators. If they don't know, of course, they'll reach out to those individuals or tell you who you need to reach out to. Again, every district is different, so I can't give you specific information about that because I don't know your district's specificity in the application, but I can tell you that even if you are not if you don't teach math, science, ELAR, or social studies, and it has a star related assessment associated with it, that's absolutely okay. The applications go through TEA, and of course, the testing evaluations with pre and post tests for individuals who are not a tested subject area. It goes through Texas Tech, and they of course, look at the validity of those tests. And if they feel that those tests are accurate for pre and post tests to evaluate the instruction in your classroom, then you get it. Again, to one of the previous commentators on the line today, when she talked about CTE, we've had in my district, we had multiple teachers who got several levels of designations from being CTE teachers. We've had some individuals who, we have PE teachers who have gotten designations. SPED teachers, all of those individuals are qualify. I think our fine arts teachers just became a part of the application process this year. So even our band and theater arts teachers will fall under those designations with the assessments that have been approved. So it is possible. It is just that you have to make sure that your particular subject area is under that application that has been approved by TA.
Okay, we have more.
Okay.
Do the conference have to occur during planning time? I said no, but I don't know if you want to.
So your conference does not have to take place during your planning time. It could be before school, it could be after school. I'm not going to even lie to y'all. As an administrator, I used to tell some of my teachers, "Hey, let's walk and talk," depending on how, busy our schedules were. But you always want to make sure that you've documented the conversations that you've had with your administrators, especially if you have any questions that you um, may have about it. So even if it was a sit down meeting where you talked about different things, it's okay for you to send your administrator an email and just say, hey, thank you so much for the pre-conference and the information that we were able to discuss during that pre-conference. Um, these are some of the things that I took away from that conversation. These are the things that we're working on if you plan on coming in within this particular time period. These are how these things connect to my goals. I mean, you want to put all of those things because again, that becomes an artifact later on. Um, it's okay for you to be intentional about ensuring that you get to um, the particular level of success when it comes to T-TESS that you want. And again, administrators should not get offended by it or anything else because, I mean, the truth of the matter is now, again, with this whole teacher incentive allotment that we have, I mean, this it's the name of the game to make sure that you have those artifacts. You have to make sure that you are um, ensuring clarity when it comes to what your administrators are looking for when they come into your classrooms. But I will also say this, and I have some information in some of the slides later on, but just remember that T-test is not a secret, right? The things that your administrators are supposed to do is public knowledge. All right. Even the suggested questions that they're supposed to ask you in pre and post conferences and um, the rubrics and all of those different things, public knowledge. It is on the T-TESS website. You can look it up. It is all of those things, what they're supposed to be looking for, how they're supposed to evaluate you. It is all public knowledge. And you want to be a guru in it too. That's why you're sitting on this training right now, right? So we definitely want to empower you moving forward to be able to say, hey, I want to be able to get to the highest form of success when it comes to T-test. And it's okay for you to ask your administrators, what does that look like? According to what you are required to do as a evaluator, what are you wanting to see when you come into my classroom?
Okay, it
Um,
took too long to bring me back with it. I ordered.
I'm sorry. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. Um,
We
I see we have
have
some more
some
questions.
hands.
Okay, yes,
Yes,
some
we
hands
have
raised.
some
Yep.
more, but we also have people
Yeah, let's get the
that raise their
hands.
hands.
Uh-huh.
Emily, Emily Finch, and then Rachel Gibbs.
Okay.
Emily, are you ready to ask your question?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Last year, I taught English 1 and I used our handbook to apply the formula for TIA because we were designated by TIA. And
Hmm.
this year, we just got an email from HR saying that our designation now we're not designated anymore. And so I assume that I don't know that we're supposed to have a question session with someone from TXCE or Teams
Hmm.
tomorrow after school, but
Hmm.
I kind of am a little at a loss. I've been teaching AP and I wasn't eligible for it before. I know that they expanded after the first year because we only had one
Hmm.
year with TIA to
Hmm.
CTE and AP teachers. And I'm back now teaching AP, but I'm not really sure what to do because this was a surprise to me and I was pretty excited about it, but I don't
Hmm.
know. Do you have any advice, maybe questions I should ask
I
tomorrow?
absolutely. I would ask what um so first off, if they say that you no longer have like the application as a district, that means that something may have gone awry with the testing um, components, or even the evaluation components, there might not have been enough calibration to
Hmm.
show that administrators were pretty much like even kill when it comes
Hmm.
to evaluating people. They
Yeah.
look at all of those things when it comes to evaluation. So like
Hmm.
we used to tell people all the time, you can't be the Lone Ranger over here giving everybody distinguished, right? Or
Sure.
you can't be the Lone Ranger over here giving everybody below.
Right.
Because we have to be able to calibrate, but that also has to
Hmm.
meet the when I talked about facts over feelings, I never forget one of my principals that I worked with said, "Hey," well, it was actually one of the directors and assistant superintendents that said, "If everybody on your campus was proficient, would we be
Hmm.
a D or F campus?"
Hmm.
And that put a lot of things in perspective for me. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that any given day when we talk about like STAR or any test that our kids take, we don't know what they're dealing with on that day. That's why we try to make STAR days sunshine and roses. Like, don't yell at the kids. Don't, give them,
Yeah.
they need to have a positive day because we want them to do, because
Hmm.
we're actually relying on just like the 45 minute is a snapshot of your teaching, that day is a snapshot of what you taught those kids and if they remembered
Right.
all of it. So just know that the questions that you want to ask them is, you know, how did we possibly lose that designation? And then is there a timeline as to when that designation will be restored? And then you also
Hmm.
want to ask if somebody was already designated, like because you don't lose your designation if you go to
Hmm.
a district that doesn't ascribe to TIA or whatever.
Right.
Is does do those individuals still what do they need to go through in order to ensure that they still get the designation allocations that they're supposed to?
Yeah. And
Mhm.
apparently the other teachers I talked to who got it the previous year, they
Mhm.
received a letter saying that they still were okay. It
Uh-huh.
was just teachers like myself who only taught AP before, and then they moved me to, I never even asked why they moved me to English one. It was a big change, but then said my scores were really good and my evaluations were good. And
Mhm.
so I had expected, I worked with the dean of instruction. She said that should be receiving exemplary. And so it was a real
So,
letdown to get the final notification. But I just know that, um, like someone told me that they didn't think that that they had heard at a different campus that maybe the the evaluations and the student growth measures didn't line up. I don't know if
mhm.
that's affects things, but I also know that I'm skeptical about the pre and post test for AP. So that was I'm thinking that maybe it didn't, you know, I don't know that our pre-tests that were district made
Mhm.
were that met the criteria that they would
And that
need to.
and that very well could be the issue. And remember, it's not your district that's making that decision about the test. It's
Mm-hmm.
the individuals who are over this at Texas Tech. So
Okay.
of course, TEA sends it out to this
Mm-hmm.
non-biased entity that is going to evaluate all of these things. And that
Mm-hmm.
very well could be the reason why the designation is on hold.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you.
No problem. Absolutely.
Rachel?
Yes. I guess my question was related to T-test ratings. I know that you mentioned before, and we kind of was groomed to believe that proficient is okay. So, are you saying that proficient would kind of knock you off the run-ins to be part of that incentive money?
So, yes, ma'am, that is exactly what I'm saying. And I and a lot of people, and I know y'all have heard it before because I've said
Yeah.
it numerous
Yeah.
times as a administrator. Proficient is rock solid teaching, and it is. It truly is. But if you get proficient all the way down, it is not going to get you to be a teacher incentive allotment a designated teacher. You have to get in that accomplished and distinguished standpoint because you have to get to a certain point where your percentage, your T-test percentage makes it to the level of, and I have a slide in here. I'll definitely, matter of fact, let me, because I could always go back to where we are. But if you look at, um, I'm sorry, this is just based on, and again, your application may be a little bit different, but when we talk about the gates, right? When we talk about T-test gate 1 and T-test gate 2, gate 1 is based on your summative. That's what we're talking about today, right? So your total summative score, if you want to be a recognized, exemplary, or master teacher, and I will tell you this, we've already gotten some information from the state where they're expanding these designations. So I think they're adding another designation to where it'll be something different. And I haven't put that on there because it hasn't been like issued out in like a to the administrator address, but I definitely know that they're adding another level of designation. So again, you have to, in order for you to even qualify, like your kids could have did awesome, they could have did absolutely amazing on star and show growth, but if you didn't get out of T-test, if you just had proficient all the way down, then you don't even qualify for the growth measure, the student academic growth. So you want to, so if I'm looking at this and I want to be, and I'm considered a exemplary teacher, that means that my summative score was 83, right? So that also means that if I want to meet the information on recognized exemplary or master teacher, I have to show that 75% of my students met or exceeded expected growth. Exemplary would be 85%, and then master would be 95%. So there's a whole equation. And so let me also say this. This is also public knowledge too. If you go to any of the teacher incentive allotment, well, I shouldn't say any of them. You want to go to the one that TEA has, right? But um, if you want to go there and they have all of this information, it shows you all of their equations that will get you to these particular designations. But again, you will not qualify if you didn't have your T-test. And it has to be a certain percentage on T-test
Yeah, because I think when they introduced it to us in my district, they said your
in order
T-test.
for it. Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think when they introduced it to us on in our district at the beginning of the year, they said that the T-test, because they know that it could be subjective, it weighs only 10%.
Oh, I don't know. You might want to get some clarity on that
Okay.
because it is definitely more than 10%.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I think we had some more hands.
Thank you.
Sharon,
All right, absolutely.
Sharon Prince.
Of course, I dropped my phone.
Oh,
Yeah,
no
my name
worries.
is my name is Sharon Prince, and I just wanted to ask if graduate classes in my EDD program count as professional development, or is that seen as like outside of?
So that's a great question. And I've actually had many people ask me this, right? And it all depends on what is in your district's policy for professional development. Because in some districts, they have that within their printed, their approved policies that those do count. And in other districts, they say that that is your own personal growth outside of, you know, the district. But again, all of that, especially if you're getting your EDD in something that is going to impact the scope of education, I would definitely say that that is something that benefits you in the classroom right now. So I would I would put it in there no matter what as an
I mean,
artifact.
I'm taking assessments for program improvement right now. Right now,
Uh-huh.
it's sort of hard to
Hmm.
say that doesn't work.
Uh-huh. I would definitely use it as an artifact no matter what. And I would let them have to tell me that it doesn't count. All
I have a
right.
question.
Absolutely.
I noticed there, like on your table it says evidence used. Walkthroughs are also used? I thought they didn't count.
Walkthroughs are used, yes. So, your walkthroughs, your formal and informal observations, all of those things are used to go towards your summative. So, walkthroughs are considered a part of the scope of understanding your educational um, success with students, with your professional growth, all of those different things. So, yes, all of those things, walkthroughs, formal and informal observations, are all used towards your summative. And that's why I told you at the beginning, remember that your summative should not just be a copy and paste of your 45-minute or any of your walkthrough evaluations. It should be a culmination of all of those things. It's a summary of all of those things. And when you talk about artifacts, so like that planning artifact, all of your lesson plans, that's an artifact. When we talk about planning, any resources that you're required to use from the district, and you show that those things, you utilize those things to um, do any type of training in your PLCs, that's considered, an artifact. So you want to make sure that you include all of those things when you go into your summative. I can't tell you how many times when I was an administrator, I would have teachers literally come in with binders and binders worth of evidence that showed me what they were doing in each one of these domains. That, again, I didn't observe in my 15-minute observations or my 45-minute observation. So I would have to look at those artifacts and take that into account. And of course, look at the data that shows that these students were making progress, the data that shows that this teacher was making progress towards their goal that they set at the beginning of the year, in order to um, give more points to that particular domain.
Okay, so even though they have access to the walkthroughs, notes, and all that stuff, it's recommended for us to print them out and put them like in a binder then?
I'm team don't kill trees. So I'm totally I love digital components. I would definitely tell you to make a digital profile. Only reason why I say that is because if you ever leave the location, I mean, not that I'm telling you to leave your school or your district, but if you ever decide to go anywhere else, and if you create some sort of digital documentation, you create this portfolio. I'm gonna go back to I'm gonna go back to this. So I'm kind of jumping around, y'all. So please forgive me. But y'all have had some amazing questions, and I want to make sure that I'm answering all of those things for you. But so let me say, I'm just gonna go through this because this will kind of answer your question. When you get to your summative, you have to be your own advocate, right? Because your administrator, remember, I told you I was on the dark side for over 5 years, right? So, as an administrator, I'm what the size of your school is. I was a secondary administrator, so I had anywhere between um, possibly 30 teachers that I was responsible for evaluating. Okay, so when we talk about that, remember that your administrator is just honestly trying to keep their head above water, right? Depending on, where you're at, what their caseload is. So it becomes your responsibility to say, hey, I think you missed this, or hey, I think you should consider this because this is what I was providing. So again, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to chronicle your instructional cycle. You have to make sure that you have all of those things that evidence, like I said, facts over feelings, right? So when we look at some of these things, you see that, like, what does that evidence look like? You might that might have been your next question, like, what am I supposed to provide? You have different things in here that are available to you. You can look at some of these things. So when we talk about like instruction, what does that look like? What am I supposed to have available when we talk about communicating with students or using questions and techniques? All of these things are artifacts that you can possibly use. And again, Miss Dr. Claudia is gonna send the link to this presentation. This presentation has clickable links all through it, right? You can click on this. It's going to take you to a document that shows you what some of your artifacts can look like. Um, but you also, so I always use this guy as an example because I absolutely love what he did when it comes to the digital component. So he created a digital portfolio. There are several different ways that you can do it. I have my own personal digital portfolio through a Google site, but this guy used um, a different platform, whatever it is that can keep all of your information, your pictures. But if you look at this, this is based on T-TESS, right? So he has domain 4 artifacts, he has domain 2, learning from the process, he has the evidence of achievement, he has like all of these different things that he was able to keep together to show his administrator, hey, this is how I was letting my students engage in the learning. They were leading their learning. They were doing all of these things. And you have to remember that the administrator is wanting to see these things because when it comes to your summative, they want to see all of the things that you've done throughout the year and how you've managed to get student growth. So you definitely want to have that. Now, if that's a binder, if you're old school, I used to be the queen of killing trees. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. But as I grew in the profession, I'm team technology all the way. I'm also team AI. I'm gonna talk to y'all about that in a minute, and y'all might feel a certain type of way about AI. But if you're not using AI to enhance your T-test capabilities, then you're missing out. And I'm going to talk to you about that too. But you always want to keep an account of all of your artifacts, and you want to make sure that you have all of the things that can show how you should be above proficient so that you can get out of gate one, especially for the TIA components, but just be above proficient so that you can keep accounting of how you have had successful years in the classroom. All right, I see Mr. Banks and then Miss Moreno.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment. I took your class, or I did this training last year, and I
Uh-huh.
just wanted to mention it's so nice to see so many participants on this time around because a lot of teachers don't do this. And I took your advice. I started small last school year, and I just did a Google Doc with each domain, dropped in all my certificates from AFT and other certificates that I had, and my principal was like, "You were the only one that did this out of all of, I guess, out of all the teachers that she observed." And she was like, "This is awesome," and I was like, "Oh, it's kind of simple," because it was my first time doing this.
Uh,
So, for everybody that's on, definitely take the advice. It's well worth it.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. And that's my goal is to help. Now that I'm out of the campus administrator role, and my colleagues here in AFT can tell you, I am all about empowering teachers. I'm not trying to gatekeep on anything that I was able to learn while I was in that seat as a campus administrator, because again, like I told you, if your district ascribes to TIA, your success is their success. They gain more funding from the state, and we're not even going to talk about the funding equations and everything else that are happening at TEA. The reason why I'm still a member of the American Federation of Teachers is because they're fighting to ensure that the equity across the board for teachers, for students, all of those different things are done so that public education is not villainized and we're getting to where we need to be. But this professional development that they're putting on, I always tell people when I started back in 2005, I used to come to professional developments for AFT. Of course, we've gotten really advanced and we do things online and in person now. But back then, when it was in person, as a broke first year teacher, I would only go to, because they would always feed you, right? And I knew I could take a to go box. Don't y'all judge me. I was a fat kid at heart. Okay. But just know that as I got more information from the AFTPD, it helped me to be a better educator. I helped my district to have, exemplary campuses. My data improved based on the information that I got from these PDs. So I'm not just giving you this information based on, oh, she's doing this. Of course, in my years of being an administrator, I could not be a part of the American Federation of Teachers because, I was the person that was responsible for the hiring and might even be the firing of teachers. But now that I'm not in that role, I'm trying to use all of the information that I gained while in that seat to help educators. So I hope that y'all get something out of this. So thank you so much for that comment. I truly appreciate it. And Miss Young?
Okay.
Hi. Thank you
Hi.
for the
Oh,
input. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So thank you for the great idea for the digital portfolio because I'm starting one. I've been assigning my kids with Adobe Express and I'm kind of been organizing it, but I had no idea really how to organize it. So after you mentioned this, is like, yes, got it. But my other question was on T-TESS.
hmm
So my district decided this year to change the requirements, and they went to a 4.8 in domains 2 and 3, which is the ones that they use for the TIA, for the
Yes.
teacher
So
alignment.
instruction
And
and
it
classroom
seems
environment.
very not realistic that out of those 8, I guess not domains, but the subdomains, the strands, you had to have 7 distinguished and 1 um, accomplished in order to get that 4.8. And it's like, how realistic is across the state to have almost a perfect score? Because, and the reason why they decided to do this is because I think one school in particular was giving distinguished to most of his teachers. So that moved the curve. So, and right now you just gave another insight saying, okay, not everybody starts raising flags if only one school is giving distinguished and the other one no. But I don't know how my district is not catching that.
So and I totally understand where you are. And it's not, and honestly, it's not just your district. When they send their information, there should be somebody in your district that's responsible for TIA. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a TIA teacher, excuse me, if you're a TIA district, then there should be somebody responsible for the application, the evaluation of
Yes.
data, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they should have been catching this before it's sent to the state. But the reason why there's probably a shift in that numerical equation is because of what they've been given from the state. Like the state is probably saying, hey, you have some outliers that are going to impact your application. You always want to see the cluster being everybody in the middle. You shouldn't see all of these outliers if you're looking at like this graph, right?
Yes.
So that could be one of the things that has impacted the shift. However, I will say this: I would charge you to go look at your district's application and look at what is actually stated in the application, because what I also know about administrators is that they'll try to push the number a little bit higher so that people can try to get to that, and then the number may be actually lower than what it is. Um,
Mm.
they are trying to push people to get to 7 layers of distinguish when that number in the application may actually just be that you're supposed to have some accomplished and distinguished on there.
Well, for that, I got to see that
Okay.
the website, and I actually met the person, emailed the person, so I got to talk to the person that is in charge of that because it's like, how
hmm
can you be doing this? So I went back and forth, and I'm very outspoken. So he's like, well, I only got that not concrete response, but yes, McAllen ISD, I guess that's my district. They hire a third party, and
hmm
the University of Texas. I'm trying
Text
to
it.
remember. Yeah. And
hmm
then I don't know what happened. Now we have Region 1. And now they
hmm
are requesting artifacts in the middle of the TIA for
Got
this
it.
year. And last year, our numbers changed in October. You know how they need to return the data in October? That's when it
Hmm.
changed to the four. It was 4.5 for masters and now moved to 4.8, which
Hmm.
now is perfect score in T-TESS. And it's kind of hard because most of the teachers that like, oh, I got masters, so I got, and now everybody was dropped from there.
So, I will tell you, there are a lot of conversations that are happening at the state level about this. So think about it in terms of just your campus accountability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, in years past, as soon as we figured out the equation to get to um, approaches meets and masters for our kids and get our accountability to where we can be A and B campuses. As soon as we figured out the equation, the next year, what happens? They changed up the evaluation system, or they changed up the equations to where it became more a little bit more difficult to get
Yes.
to that next level. That's going to happen with the teacher incentive allotment. So just know I would definitely ask for the application. You are allowed to see it. I would, do an evaluation of it on your own. And again, you don't have to do that on your own. Again, I'm team AI, and there's some awesome trainings that AFT does with it. But if you have a good prompt to put in whatever AI uh, tool that you use,
Mm-hmm.
it could evaluate your district's document for you and be able to tell you if you're asking, hey, I need to know what the equation is in order to get to XYZ, it'll give it to you. So definitely utilize that. But the first thing you want to do, if you want to evaluate it yourself, you need to ask for a copy of your district's application for the teacher incentive allotment because you need to be able to evaluate what it says and what you're supposed to obtain in order to get to that level. Okay, Miss Young.
Real quickly, I had a district that used T-Test, and I went to a district that didn't use T-Test. So now I'm back to a district that uses it.
Mhm.
Is volunteering one of the domains or in one of the domains for?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So I'm gonna go back to. I love that y'all are having all of these questions. But I am gonna go back to some of the things. So when you talk about volunteering, right? So so when we talk about, I told y'all before, like the details are like when we talk about domains and descriptors, your
Uh-huh.
details are in there. So let me go back to AI, right? So
Okay.
if you were to take like let's say I wanted to be a distinguished teacher in so this domain that I have on there right now is 4.3. Well, it's domain 4 is dimension 4.3, which is professional development. If you don't do nothing else when you get your certificate tonight, make sure that's a part of your artifacts that you are going to provide during your summative meeting to your administrators, right? Because you did this and you volunteered on your own time to be able to do that. But you want to make sure that whatever you do meets the descriptors that are in that particular domain. So if I wanted to get accomplished when it came to professional development for dimension 4.3, then I need to make sure that the information that you see in these bullet points under the descriptors is actually evident in my artifacts and evident in what my administrators are seeing me do on campus. So when it says lead colleagues collaboratively on campus to identify professional development needs through self-reflection, are you doing that in your PLCs? Are you doing that when you meet with your colleagues? Are you showing that? And what evidence do you have that shows that you did that? Did you lead a PLC and show, a new strategy to your team that helps them to be able to engage students more, where it's more student-centered learning? I'm gonna give you a tool if you want to be able to do that. I'm gonna give you a tool later that goes over that. But then it says fosters faculty knowledge and skills in support of the school improvement plan through professional learning communities, greater subject level team leadership, committee membership, or other opportunities beyond the campus. Notice what it says: other opportunities beyond the campus. Are you whatever conference, whatever subject area that you do, you should be going to a conference and presenting something that you are an expert on. Okay. So if I, I was a history and English teacher. I used to present, I would make a submission to present some sort of topic during that conference that I was an expert on. And guess what? That is a part of the accomplished component of Dimension 4.3. So you want to make sure that you're doing those things. But let me also say this. So when you look at, okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you this. This is where Domain 4 is usually where people, your your administrator can make or break your aspirations to be an accomplished or distinguished, or your aspirations to be a TIA teacher, right? So when you look at these things, so you think about professional practices and responsibilities. Look at what the look at what those bullet points say. So you're looking at them and you're saying, "Oh, okay, yeah, of course I behave in accordance with the code of ethics. Yes, I meet all professional standards. Attendance, professional appearance, and behaviors. Yes, they can look at those things and talk to you about those within your summative when it comes to 4.1. Advocates for the needs of the students in the classroom. So when we talk about advocacy, are you ensuring that the differentiation that should be happening with IEPs for your students who need extra assistance is actually happening? Are you being that advocate during those ARD meetings? Are you being that advocate during those LPAC meetings? All of those things. And what evidence shows that? So you want to make sure that you have the evidence that shows that. But when we talk about volunteerism, right? So you got goal setting, all those things that you meet your goals, and then you have professional development. School community involvement. So you talk directly about volunteering, right? School community involvement is dimension 4.4 of the professional practices and responsibilities domain. All of your volunteerism and you creating you might have created a club or created a community advocacy point, all of those different things, all of that goes under this particular domain. So when we talk about volunteering, do you have one? Remember, artifacts. If you didn't document it, it didn't happen. Okay. So you want to make sure that you have all of the artifacts that shows how you contributed to the success of the school community and how you were able to build that positive culture through your volunteerism, through your leadership, whether you're a department head or team lead, all of those different things. Are you a parent liaison? Are just all of these different things that could go towards domain 4 with dimension 4.4. So I hope that answers your question. But the volunteering piece definitely would go under dimension 4.4.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Claudia, was there any other questions?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
I was
I'm
waiting
ready.
for you.
Okay.
Okay. I believe I am an accomplished teacher. Can the AP lower my rating this year or will it stay the same? I was hoping to meet the distinguished, but I don't think it will happen this year.
So remember that your T-test evaluation is on a yearly basis. So let me explain this. So yes, it is super important for you to keep your artifacts of the evaluations that you've had prior to this year because it shows you being a successful, consistent teacher, right? So if you do have any issues where you have someone that says, "Oh, well, I just don't think that you reach this goal of accomplish based on my evaluation," then you want to be able to say, well, in previous years, according to these artifacts that I have and my previous evaluations, with the same artifacts that I'm showing you now, with the same type of instruction, successful instruction that I've been engaged in, I was able to get these things. That helps your case when you are trying to ensure that you get to the level that you're trying to reach. So I would definitely say keep those evaluations that had you at accomplished, and ensure that you are showing those things during your summative, along with the artifacts from this year that show that you were making student growth and contributing to the learning environment successfully. Let me also say this. I'm going to beat this AI horse to death. I promise I am. But any of these, if you take any of these domains, right? You want to be distinguished, right? And you see that it says like um, the middle one says initiates collaborative efforts that enhance student learning and growth. What does that look like in what you do with your subject area and or extracurricular activities? You can put all of that as a prompt with that exact wording in any type of AI tool, and it will dish out. Like, you can tell them what you want. Do I want a lesson plan that has that information? Do I want you to create a lesson based on this subject matter information that does that? Do I want you to create a committee or a some sort of group or project that helps me to be able to do that? It's going to give you all of those things. So definitely work smarter and not harder. You do not have to do this by just racking your brain. I tell people all the time, if AI was available when I was getting all my degrees, I'd have like 17 of them now. Not that I'd be copying and pasting anything, but I'm just saying, like, I didn't have to go and look up this stuff myself. Like, I could, it's at my fingertips. Yeah, I'd be Einstein right now. Okay. Other questions?
I've had admin tell me that they are not to give out many distinguished scores across the board. How valid is that statement?
So
Hmm.
that's a good question. It might be encouraged to some districts and administrators not to give out a lot of distinguished based on, let me tell you why they would say that, based on your current accountability at your district or your campus. So, like I said before, if my campus is a F campus, we are on the verge of being taken over by TEA, and all of my teachers on that campus have a distinguished, accomplished, or distinguished evaluation, the math is not mathing, right? So we would have to make sure that what we are seeing with the artifacts, with the data, and everything else is, remember, your evaluation, especially your summative, is not just based on that 45 minutes, that those 15 minutes. Is based on the totality of everything that your administrator has access to. That includes test scores, that includes any type of district progress monitoring, all of those different things. They're looking at all of that and they're taking all of that into account when it comes to your summative evaluation. So to answer your question, it's not, it may be encouraged to not give those distinguished, but of course, it all has to be evidence based. Okay. If you get to it and your kids are rocking it and you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, then absolutely they should give that to you. And you're meeting all of those things. And notice every one of these things when you get to students, when you get to distinguish, it says student centered actions. So it's like they see the students doing these things, and you want to be able to provide those artifacts that show student success. Okay. All right.
I
Next
have
question.
an answer to your question about if you're a D or an F campus, and yet you have distinguished teachers on that campus. How does that happen? Well, I'm from the Rio Grande Valley,
Okay.
and I'm at a campus who got a D, but really earned that 78 because of
Mhm.
where the components were
Yep.
that were the lowest. We had, or TEA forced that D on us. But the thing that the district is not questioning is that, oh, and I work at a middle school.
Gotcha.
In sixth
Love it.
grade, a group of kids comes in. Let's say they make 20% a growth. In
Hmm.
seventh grade, they come in and make, let's give them 30% growth. In eighth grade, by the time they leave, they made 60% growth. and yet they cannot pass a STAR test that only requires 54%. Yet the student is consistently and continually growing. The downfall really isn't with the middle school teachers, it's elsewhere. It's their environmental factors, poverty, not coming to school, things of that nature. And so there is a way that that does happen.
I do.
And
I totally agree with you. And I definitely I take that torch up with you. I totally understand that. As a former middle school teacher, I taught middle school and high school, and I was a middle school administrator. I know exactly what you're saying. Um, uh, I mean, just think about the dip that happens when kids get to the sixth grade because they're going from a lot of structure to a lot of freedom, right? I'm going from walking down the hallway with, a bubble in my mouth and my hand up and all these other different things to complete utter chaos because I can run in the hallway, all these different things. When we talk about environmental factors, you're talking about, poverty. You're talking about socioeconomic status. You're talking about, um, like you said, attendance,
linguistic needs, yes.
all of those things. Like, you don't even want me to get on my high horse about the linguistic situations. Because why is it that our kids, our EB students, have to pass tail pass and star in order to exit out when I have kids that has been speaking English their whole life that still can't pass star too? Listen here, me and you would have a great conversation about all of those different things. But what I'm saying from an administrative standpoint, and I'm just giving you the insight of what your administrators are being told and what upper administration has to push based on the current accountability measures that are happening from the state. They have to make sure that the growth measures that are happening within this that are happening with those students, yes, they're making a ton of growth, but if they don't meet that magic number, right, from the state, then again your administrators are being charged with saying, okay, we're not meeting that magic number. We're still not meeting our goals as a campus. So that must mean we need to do better when it comes to our classroom instruction. So that's where that statement of should we be giving out distinguished to everybody if we are still not meeting our goals? That's not to say that it is like I'm not saying that agree with that wholeheartedly, but I am saying that there are certain things that we have to look at, and we also have to calibrate. I'm telling you this as a former administrator, we had to calibrate with each other, meaning we had to go into classes together and be like, okay, so what did you think this person got? And what did you think that, well, why? Why are you all the way over here at improvement needed and I'm over here at accomplished? That means we are not on the same page when it comes to our pedagogy, when it comes to understanding of instructional techniques, all of those different things. So it could be that it's not a classroom issue. It could be that it's a leadership issue and there needs to be more training for the leadership as well. But and not just the training for the leadership to where they understand T-TESS, but the leadership to understand the instructional techniques that's going to get our students to be successful, that they should be helping our teachers to be able to accomplish within the classroom. So it is a whole lot of different factors that can be established. But I want you to know that I am a true advocate of teachers. If they are doing the work in the classroom, they should be given the the ratings that they deserve. But the unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in the state of Texas is that all of that is tied to standardized assessment. All right.
I'm having a hard time understanding how it's tied to standardized assessment when districts are allowed to write SLOs, their own test. We're not talking about STAR then. We're just talking about something that someone manufactured that can be graded the same across the board. Is that what you mean by that? Because it's not just STAR.
No, it's so depending on whatever your content area is, it would be based on the student learning objectives and are we meeting those things when it comes to T-TESS, which are goal setting and everything else. So no, I'm not saying that it's just STAR, but in order for you to, of course, get to that accomplished and distinguished level, they are one they are going to look at your data. That is, I mean, T-test requires your administrator to look at your data. So when we're looking at data and they're looking at it from the equations that are given to them by the state of Texas, especially when it comes to the teacher incentive allotment and all of those different things. So they're looking at that. Did we make that 75% growth or that 85% growth or that 95% growth? So when we're looking at all of those things, we're trying to determine um, where that falls from improvement needed to distinguished. So all of that has to be taken into consideration with the T-test ratings. Did I answer your question? Do I need to elaborate?
No, you absolutely did. I just wanted
Okay.
to share that, and I'm glad you acknowledge that there is
Hmm.
a way that
Yes.
we can be superb teachers,
Hmm.
and our campus rating or our district rating isn't what it should be, but there's growth there. So we got to look excuse me, at external factors. My district only uses the formal at 30% and
Hmm.
student achievement or student growth at 70%. So we have teachers on my campus that hit 70, 80, 85% that were not eligible for TIA because of that formal assessment. We went from using summative in
Hmm.
our guidebook to all of a sudden during the summer, the district decided we're going to use our formal. And so that was out of our control, of course.
Indeed.
But I understand why we don't. Administrators shouldn't give distinguished left and right. I
Hmm.
get that because that correlation with that distinguished uh, identifier does not correlate with, in my case, the star scores. But
Hmm.
what happens when it's the other way around? What happens when we keep producing and just cannot hit um, that 3.7 or that 4.0 or that 4.7? I'm lucky enough to have already qualified, but I do see the struggle in many of my fellow teachers on my campus that they've consistently hit those numbers, but for some reason, their formal isn't where it needs to be. And
So,
I mean, how do
and
you defend that as an administrator when it's consistent?
you, that is the, honestly, I mean, you could write a whole dissertation on that, right? Because and that's usually as an administrator, I'm I'm cognizant of when I was on campus, I'm cognizant of the fact that I'm looking at this data and I'm looking at how teachers are growing kids, and I don't want to be the barrier, right? That keeps this teacher from meeting those teacher incentive allotment goals. And again, you have again that gate one and gate two, right? Gate one is T-test. Gate two is the student growth measures. And no one wants to be that administrator that at the end of the year, that teacher has met all of those student growth measures, well, at least one of them, right? Um, to at least become a recognized teacher, and they miss being able to achieve that teacher incentive allotment because of their T-test scores. So I will say this though, the reason why we have this training is because a lot of teachers don't advocate for themselves. Like they just take what is given to them from their administrators as gospel when they are in their pre and post conferences. If you're not bringing any artifacts, if you're just, nodding and saying, "Hey, yeah, I guess that's what you saw. Yeah, I guess that's what I was doing," then you're setting yourself up for failure, because you have to be able to say, "Hey, I want us to go through this basically line by line. I want to be able to say, hey, I have some resources to show that I'm above proficient in this particular category. So, excuse me, you definitely want to, encourage your colleagues to advocate for themselves and not just, but the problem is by the time we get to the summative, and I did this training with my local just recently, and most of the teachers, by the time you get to the summative, you're at the end of the year, close to the end of the year, and most of us are fatigued, we are overwhelmed, and it is so many different things that have our attention or require our attention that when we get there, we're just like, yeah, I guess that's what that is. But we still have to continue to advocate for ourselves, especially through the summative, because the summative is what is going to be your guiding point to getting to that teacher incentive allotment component. And that is what is reported to the state. Okay. Um, So I know it's like 7:52. I'm sorry. Is there any other questions that I can answer in the chat?
So there are a few more.
Okay.
Let me see if there's one that's different from everything that we have been talking about. Let's see. Okay,
Okay.
so this one. I teach math and science in life skills. Are we not included for the TIA designation? This is my fourth year teaching, but first year teaching life skills. In my post-conference, I was told that getting a low score was expected. As a first year life skills teacher, it seems that life skills and other space teaching is not really scored fairly. Any thoughts for me and any others who are SPED teachers?
Absolutely. So again, it depends on your district application, but SPED teachers can be a part of that application. I'm not saying that that's the case at your district because they have to apply for that. But SPED teachers can be a part of the teacher incentive allotment, especially you said you teach science and social studies, excuse me, science and math, and life skills. And of course, your students take STAR Alt. So there are ways to show that growth measure, ways to show that progression, ways to show progression for your students. And
Who?
I'm just gonna be honest. I hate that assessment when when people say, "Oh, it's your first year, so you're gonna get a low score." That doesn't mean that. If especially if you've been teaching, so it doesn't mean that you should automatically get a low score just because it's your first year in a particular area. If you are again providing the artifacts and showing your your success with those students and showing how your artifacts meet that proficient, accomplished, distinguished um, standpoint within the dimensions, then that has to be considered. So, again, if you didn't take anything else from this training today, one, never, ever, ever give up your opportunity to have a pre and post conference. Don't ever waive your conference. You always want to go and advocate for yourself. And in that advocacy that you do, you want to make sure that you have the artifacts that meet the actual criteria of that accomplished and distinguished level. So when you go into your summative, when you have your end of year meeting with your administrators, you want to go armed with your binder, your digital portfolio, whatever it is that is going to help you to be able to say, hey, this is what I do. Outside of what you saw in those 15-minute meetings and that 45-minute observation, these are the things that I do as, and this is the comprehensive me as an educator in my setting throughout the year. So you definitely want to make sure that when you sit down with them, they know that you are going to give them the story of your educational journey throughout the year. Okay?
Do we have time for one more?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so this one is different. Every year we do the 7C survey that Texas Tech gets, and it's tied to the data, but we never get the results of it. Is there any way to request this data?
Absolutely. So the person, whoever is the person that is responsible for the teacher incentive allotment data and your application information. Again, if they say that you can't have that, you can submit a public records request. But that should be available to you so that you're able to know what needs to be done in order to meet the qualifications for that. So you should have access to be able to see those things.
Okay, wonderful. We have 4 minutes. Do you want one more?
Sure.
Okay. Are there questions for SGMS or segments? Is that the same for everyone? I had 1 year where they explained the calculations and used the fourth and fifth category of the scores, but they switched it to only count the highest category. I forgot the term for it.
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Okay. Are there equations for segments the same for everyone? It's SGMS. I'm not sure if that means segments. I had 1 year where they explained the calculations and used the fourth and fifth category of the scores, but they switched it to only count the highest category. I forgot the term for it.
Okay, so I think that was student growth measures. So,
Okay.
yes, the student growth measures are based on the information that comes directly from the state. So, it all depends on what the state decides as of that year. So, those things can change. So when you're having your goal setting meeting, that's why all of this whole cycle of T-TESS is super important, and you got to have a game plan for the entire year, right? Because your administrator should be telling you what those growth measures are that you need to meet in order to get to the goals that you have. So you want to make sure that you know what those numbers are, what the numbers are that the district has within their plan, and your campus goals as well, because your personal goal and your student growth measure goal have to align with what your district and your campus are doing. And of course, it has to you have to meet the threshold that the state gives us. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Rachel, and I'm glad you knew that. I was like, what is that?
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Well,
Awesome. Well,
I'm sorry, my information is on here. If you want to, again, I will send this out to I'm sorry I didn't change that last slide. I got a new last name. But just know that my information is there. If you'd like to email me with any specific questions, you need some assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. I hope that you got something out of tonight, and continue to get your professional development from our our AFT trainers. I'm just one of some awesome trainers. Well, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I've had some great professional development from some amazing people in the American Federation of Teachers. So I hope that you continue to be a part of this in the Bridges program. So thank you for tonight.